How are you?
Good.
Good. Hey, we're here at Stonewall Farm today, and I thought maybe we could look at the greenhouses.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
There's a couple different kinds of greenhouse here, and so we could look at both. It's a nice day.
Yeah, it is. It's a little foggy, but the sun's going to burn off, and we're going to go out and check it out. Now, we're going to go into the greenhouses today, and we're going to go into the dome as well as the hoop house. So there's educational opportunities in the dome as well as in the hoop house. In the dome, they have educational programs for school kids that come in. They'll teach them all about plants and how the whole thing works. And then in the hoop house that's behind us, they'll grow tomatoes and other vegetables and prepare for the season in the spring and in the fall.
Good.
Do you hear?
I do. What is that?
I think that's Amanda coming up the hill. Let's go check it out. We'll be right back. So that's Amanda in her tractor. So what I understand is this morning she's been working out in the gardens out in front of Stonewall Farm, and she's been doing some mowing. Amanda, how are you doing?
Great. How are you, Jody?
I'm great. Oh, this is wonderful out here.
I'm glad you could be here today.
I know you have a lot to do today.
Yeah.
So
all right.
I think you're going to do some mowing.
Yeah,
and then,
the kale and then an old planting of dill and cilantro
Yep.
mowed in so we can seed some more fall.
Excellent.
fall
Yeah, because
things.
I see that they're working in the greenhouses this morning and they're getting some plants going. So
Yeah.
why don't you do your thing?
Okay.
And then we'll go out and head into the greenhouses and see what Jenna and Sarah are doing.
Sounds good.
Okay. Great.
Thanks, Jody.
Good. Thanks.
Hey, Jody.
Hey, Amanda. Great. So you're done, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Just real quick.
Cool. Cool. So I see that we've got some plantings here, and these are going to go into the garden.
They're actually going to go into the second greenhouse that we're going to be building in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Some fall, kale, chard, scallions, all things that are pretty hardy that
Great.
we'll do fine in there into December.
Excellent. Excellent. So
Yeah.
you try to have things all year
Yeah,
round, pretty much.
absolutely.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. So right now you've got tomatoes in the greenhouse.
We sure do.
Okay. So I think Sarah and Jenna are in there right now.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll take a look in.
Great.
Okay. All right.
Sounds good.
Wow, this is so cool. I've never seen tomato plants this tall before. This is really great. So here we are in the greenhouse with Jenna, Sarah, and Amanda. And Amanda, I know you've got to get back to work, so we'll catch up with you a little bit later. Okay, cool. So Sarah, I would really like to see more about this, and I think Jenna and you are going to have a little converse about some bugs, because that's what Jenna really loves.
I'm excited. There's some really neat ones in here today.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. I think the bugs are down there.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
let's go.
So tell me a little, Sarah, about how this is structured. Like, why are these tomato plants on these, what do you call them, trellises?
Yeah, we call it a trellis system. We grow them vertically. Tomatoes by nature want to just sprawl out on the ground. They don't want to climb. So we have to help them do that. So we grow them vertically, and we try to take off any of the axillary shoots like this would be and just keep a terminal shoot so that it grows in one straight line. It's better because it allows the plant to have more space in between rather than getting really full and bushy. And then that allows for better air movement.
And you can grow more plants in a space as well, I imagine.
Right, by growing vertically.
Right.
Yeah.
And how many different kinds of tomatoes do you have in this greenhouse?
I think we have about 10 different kinds. They're mostly heirlooms. We chose one kind that was a hybrid for disease resistance to kind of have that as an insurance, but we're just so in love with the different heirlooms and the flavor that they have.
That you wanted to have all those different choices.
Yeah.
Now, are you selling these at the market, or are they part of the CSA, or both?
Both.
Both.
And as well, they're sold in our farm stand.
Great.
Yep.
Now, as I look around here, I see so many tomatoes. I mean, it's just amazing to stand here and see all the different kinds of tomatoes and so many of them. But this is an organic greenhouse, right?
Right.
Everything that's grown in here is grown organically.
Right.
And I've actually heard just from other people that trying to grow organically that it's sometimes hard to have a balance of pests because you can't use the chemical pesticides and don't want to, obviously.
Right.
So how do you kind of work that out with different pests that you have and trying to keep the tomato plants healthy?
Right. Well, we choose, even though there are organic certified, sprays and pesticides, we choose not to use them, which is just a personal choice. And then I mean, we mostly have a threshold that we tolerate with insects, and we try to have, precautionary measures, which is by rotating. Unfortunately, we can't rotate in here because this is our only tomato house, but with other crops we rotate.
Well, and I noticed there's not anything on the ground other than the tomatoes
Right.
growing. Is that part of it too? Like
Yes,
no
absolutely.
grasses or...
You don't want to create a habitat that insects will want to, live in, and so we try to keep the soil very clean and sterile, and we have the landscape cloth on the edges just to keep out more
deter
weeds
some of
and-
those weeds.
Yeah.
Have you had any particular problems with pests this year?
Yes, every year we've been noticing more and more tomato hornworms.
Like, can you show, are there any around?
Yeah, I'm guaranteed we'd find one.
I know they
'cause-
blend in because
Yeah.
they're a pest that
Yeah,
wants to...
there's one right there. So that is a tomato hornworm.
Let's see if we can get it off.
They've got sticky little pads.
They're huge. Look
They
at them.
are huge.
Boy, it's hard to get it off. So how do you spot these? I mean, they're so blended in. Is it it's one of those things where you can, see the damage? What kind of damage do they cause?
Yeah, you want to look for the main signs, which are damage, and this plant's a perfect example. It's nibbled off all of the leaves on the terminal.
Oh, I see. He doesn't
and
want to
then-
come off.
No. And so the other sign is basically their poop. It drops down from where they've been munching, and
You can
will
tell
land on a
because
leaf.
that's got to be some big
Yeah,
big poop.
they are.
Yeah, insect poop is called frass, and so
Frass.
when we see it, often I'll see it in the forest from forest pests, but because I don't grow tomatoes, I wouldn't have thought to look for this, but I mean, I imagine it's all around. Now, what kind of damage? So they're chewers, they have mandibles,
Yes.
and these will turn into a really pretty big moth when they're
Yeah.
all done. Now, what kind of things would control this? I mean, you said you're not spraying, so what
Right.
do you do to control them?
We pick them.
You pick them right
search
off?
high and low about once a week or maybe more, and we pick them off.
And is it just you guys that do that, or do you have some help?
Well, this summer was excellent. We have camp here for 7 weeks, and the camp kids have about a 15-minute chore every day. And when it's garden chore, they would come up and they would search for hornworms. So
And what do
have
they
a
do with them?
different
Do they-
perspective because they're shorter, so
Little lower.
they can look up underneath the plants. After they would take them off, they'd put them in buckets, and we'd feed them to the ducks.
And the ducks like 'em.
They love them.
That's great.
It's a snack.
So that works out well.
Yeah.
I know there are some natural insect predators and parasites of the hornworms.
Yeah.
Particularly
Yeah.
parasites, because this is such a large insect, it would be hard to have an insect predator coming to eat it.
Right.
Have you seen any parasitic wasps or anything like that?
We have, yep. We discovered what we thought were maybe even hornworm eggs, and then we looked it up and found out that they were wasp eggs being laid on the hornworms. And so when we found those worms, we left them alone so that the wasp eggs could hatch
Yeah.
and do their parasitizing. And-
Great.
yeah.
So maybe we can find one that's been parasitized. We'll take a look around and
Yeah,
see.
let's look.
Because anytime you have a population of pests, you're likely, if you're not using sprays, to have a population of parasitized insects as well. When you use a spray, you're often going to also kill the parasitic
Right.
insect that
It's the
might
beneficial
benefit
insects. Ah, there's one right here.
it. Oh, that is beautiful. Now, the reason I say that's beautiful is because all these little white, these are actually pupa or cocoons right here of, look, it's just moving barely, of a parasitic wasp that comes along, and it has a really long needle-shaped ovipositor, which is its egg-laying tool, and it puts it right into the insect and lays eggs on the inside. And then the larvae feed on the tomato hornworm. Then when they're ready, they come out of the tomato hornworm, and this tomato hornworm will not survive to adulthood, which is great news for you
Yes,
guys. Yeah.
it's very good news.
But all of these pupa will be an individual parasitic wasp, which is great because then all these other tomato hornworms that maybe you haven't found or your campers haven't found to pick,
Yep.
these insects will come out and search for more places to lay eggs, and they will lay them, hopefully, in all these tomato hornworms that have
Yep.
maybe gone undetected by you and the campers.
Yes.
So that's great. This is a reason that you really don't want to take this guy off,
Nope,
right?
we're gonna let him be.
And
He's not gonna cause many problems for us.
no, I mean,
after
look at how
this.
small. I mean, he's. What's nice here is that this tomato hornworm obviously isn't nearly as big as the healthy one we found down the row,
Yeah.
and he's not going to get any bigger. He can't possibly survive because he's been being eaten by all of those little
Tough way to go.
larvae. Yeah, but it's great. It's great news. And another reason that you don't want to spray anything because you'd end up killing those.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing I found while we were walking was, is this the frass you were talking about?
It. Yep, that's
Okay.
of a smaller caterpillar, but
And so that is some pretty big frass for an insect, really, because this is a huge insect. But that's a good way to find it. I just looked on the ground and then we found it.
it
So
starts bright green, which obviously it resembles the leaves, and then
Yep.
as it ages, it
turns
gets
brown. And so
yeah.
what do? You just leave it down there?
We leave it down there.
Leave it down there.
Fertilizer.
Fertilize. Perfect. Great. So this is looking good. I mean, if you have all this production in here, you've got parasitic insects. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And hopefully by next year they will have really made an impact on that population.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So Jody, I don't know if you got a good look at this
Wow.
tomato hornworm. It's a caterpillar that will turn into a moth. Isn't
That
it
is
just amazing?
huge.
Just huge.
Yeah.
Now, you remember that we did see one that was parasitized.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not the actual insect that parasitizes it. I had this in my collection, which is why it's on a pin. But this is a parasitic wasp, and you can see that sort of pointy structure on the abdomen. That is its ovipositor, which it will stick into the body of the hornworm, the soft body of the hornworm, and lay eggs inside it. So again, the one that would come out of the hornworm, oh, it's actually eating right now while we watch it. You can see its mandibles munching away. The one that would come out of the hornworm, those little pupa that were on it, would be much smaller than this, but this one is nice because you can actually see the different parts of it.
Wow.
Amazing, isn't it?
Wow. It is. Now, what are the stripes and what are those little dots on the?
There's the dots on every segment of it are actually the opening to the outside for the insect's breathing system. They don't breathe through their mouth like we do. They have little tubes. It's almost like a system of straws branching through their body. And these are the openings to the outside. They're called spiracles.
Wow.
Every insect has them, but you can really, they're marked on the tomato hornworm.
Yep.
And then these lines, Sarah was telling me that she was talking about how these lines on the body really mimic the veins on a leaf, make it really hard to see them.
They really do, because I was looking in the greenhouse and I couldn't see that many until I really took a close look.
Right, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a really neat thing to see in the greenhouse.
So I think we're going to go over to the other greenhouse, and I hear they have a pool and goldfish. So let's check it out. Yeah.
Great.
Wow. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank
wow.
you.
So Amanda, please tell us, what do we have here?
A little bit of everything. So the dome has kind of gone through some transition over the years, just trying to, I've never grown anything like it before. New England and New Hampshire, we're in a zone 4A growing zone. So, you know, that takes us to a certain temperature in the winter, and it accounts for the cold climate that we have. Well, this dome, the way that it's built and the way that it's structured and all the different components of it make it more of like a grow zone of like a 5, even a 5B. It's a whole new territory for me. So we originally had it all in peppers, and we saw a lot of disease, a lot of insect problems, a lot of aphids. And so we decided for this year that we were going to go completely different, and we were going to put in trellises for cucumbers. We were kind of going to grow in layers, and then also we were going to grow a wide variety of things, specifically medicinal and culinary herbs that won't overwinter outside, things like rosemary. We're going to do some tarragon in here. Perennial flowers that wouldn't, more tender varieties, things that wouldn't necessarily make it outside. And so far we've had great success. I mean, we've overwintered rosemary in here, which is a very tender perennial, so it's doing great. We also have some flowers in here just to attract more beneficials. It's turned into quite a fun space.
Yeah, yeah. So in the summer, you have to keep it cool, and in the winter, you have to keep it warm. So how do you do that?
The summer has actually proven to be the most difficult of that, if you can believe it. It actually gets really, really hot in here. So the best thing that we've done is just keep the doors open, keep the fans running. And I don't know what it is about this year, but it's actually kept cooler in the 90s versus the 110s that it's been in the last couple of years. So maybe just the, I don't know, the whole system is a little bit healthier this year.
Do you think it might have something to do with that pool that I was talking about?
It might. I don't know. I don't know what the difference has been in the last couple of years. Maybe I've been more on top of keeping it filled. But definitely the tank has a lot to do with regulating the temperature in here.
So let's take a look at that pool.
Sure.
Okay, let's go. Amanda, I see some goldfish in here. I know that that's not what you're really growing here, but
but
They
they're
look really interesting.
They're really fun. So yeah, we have a big tank of water, so you might as well do something fun with it.
That sounds great.
And the tank is so that it's kind of like living on the coast. It regulates the temperature a lot more. So all day long, it absorbs the sun, and then at night, it slowly releases that heat, which is a really huge component for why it can stay so warm in the winter. I mean, the coldest it ever got was 28 degrees all winter long, which is pretty amazing, even on those negative nights. And then, you know, you walk in here in January and it's 60 degrees because the sun is shining.
Yeah.
So
I've been here in the winter, and it's a
amazing.
beautiful little gem so that you have something that's warm and beautiful and green and growing. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And a lot of our winter CSA produce comes out of here. A lot of mesclun, arugula, Swiss chard, beet greens. I know we have a lot of perennials in here, but we also have space for a lot of that annual quick greens growing. So it's a really fun space to be in January.
Yeah. So let me back up way to the beginning.
Sure,
so
sure.
this greenhouse has been here for what, like 3 years, 3 or 4 years?
Yep, 3
Okay.
years. 08. We put it up in the fall. A whirlwind of a week.
Yeah.
We bought the kit from Growing Spaces. They're out of Colorado, I believe. And up it went. And it is designed to utilize and maximize sunlight. So it's oriented so that the tank is on the north side of the greenhouse with this reflectix, so that as the sun travels across the sky, it reflects off the reflectix and into the tank. So everything is kind of focusing the sun's rays onto the water. And then we also have other contraptions around that maximize. So along the outside, those beds underneath, you actually have dryer vents, and there's 2 box fans that actually pull the warm air from around the tank and then blow it out into the headspace of the dome. The beds are built off the ground. All the vents have a beeswax tip at the end that as the beeswax warms, it expands and opens the vents. So it's a completely solar except for the water pump. It's the only thing that is not solar in the greenhouse. So no heat other than the actual sun, which is pretty awesome.
Very efficient.
Very
Yes.
efficient.
Sustainability.
Yeah, working on it.
Yeah. So you have the hoop house.
Yep.
You have the dome.
Yep.
And you're going to have another greenhouse going up. And that's going to be used to lengthen the season?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And what do you think that you'll be planting in there?
So my goal is to have the second hoop house up the beginning of September, and immediately, we started the seeds today. We're going to put kale, chard, broccoli rabe, and spinach in there. And so that will hopefully be harvesting into December, hopefully to Christmas. Christmas is my goal. And then it'll really stop growing with the lack of sunlight over the winter. But then starting in February again, we'll see a lot of growth, and so we'll be able to cut it. And then the tomato house is going to be transitioned to greens right away in October.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, and then you're going to start seeds and the whole process
Seeds
gets
start
started again.
in February, and
Yep.
it's, another year.
Great, great.
Another
Well, this has
season.
been wonderful.
Good,
And I'm really glad that we've
good.
had a chance to come out to Stonewall Farm
I'm
and
glad
see the
you did too.
greenhouses. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks
yeah.
for coming.
So if you're interested in more information about In My Backyard, you can email us, and our email address is inmybackyardch8@gmail.com. We're interested in having students come on. It's really interesting to understand, all kinds of things that are happening in the Monadnock region. So if you've got an idea, please email us, and we'll see if we can get you to come and visit, just like Amanda did here at Stonewall Farm.
Great.
So thanks.
Thank you, Jody.
All right, we'll see you again soon.
Great.
Okay, thanks.